as the markets start to collapse, a lot of folks are starting to ask me, like, Daniel, should I be buying everything? Like, is this a great buying opportunity, or should I just be blowing out everything? Like, Daniel, what should I do? Buy or sell? What's going to happen? Is this the start of a mega collapse? First, you need to have a little bit of context for what's going on. So first, the markets, the U.S. markets in particular, are only down a couple of percent, down like 5%. And that's where like people, wait, Daniel, like my favorite no profit hyper growth potential SPAC stock is down 30%. How can you say the market's only down a couple percent when my favorite stock is down 30%? First, suck it up, Buttercup. Second, imagine how much that stock could be down if the broader markets were down more significantly. Like right now, the markets are only down, the major indices are only down a couple percent. If you get a real sell-off, then these hyper speculative names take an even further hit, I would argue. So understand where we are in the context. For example, if you look at the major indices and you look at where they trade relative to their 200-day trading average, for example, which, if you check the history, zoom out several years, you'll see, look, it's generally once every year, maybe once every couple months, you'll have the major indices tapping into their 200-day moving average, seeing, like how the price hits relative to the trend. And so, if you were to look at, let's say, the Russell 3000, which is the largest 3,000 companies, which includes a lot of the smaller ones, but also includes, that's the vast majority of the companies out there for U.S. stocks. It's still 10% above, or at least 10% above, its 200-day moving average. So just to go back, to have a full retracement, it would mean a 10% drop from here for the major indices. And that's sort of like the Russell, that's like everything. The micros, the mid, large. So there'd be a 10% hit from here. So imagine all these companies were like, yes, this is my hyper growth name. It's selling off. It's down 30%. Could it go more? Look, the broader indices are barely retracing. They're not even close to their 200-day average. If it gets to the average, then it's going to be even more, I would suggest. If you look at the smaller cap relative to, the price relative to their average, that's even of a greater percentage decline that you're potentially facing. So I'm talking sort of context where we are right now. Let me do a quick 10-second plug about who I am if this is your first time checking in. My name is Daniel. You're watching Unrivaled Investing. This is a no-hype, mission-focused channel to try to find you exceptional companies and unrivaled investments. Normally, I'm focusing on potentially, multi-baggers, types of companies that go up hundreds or thousands of percent. In this case, there's a lot of people asking about market action. What should they do? So I figured I'd make a video just sort of talking, sharing my thoughts. If you enjoy learning about potential multi-baggers as well as this occasional stock market commentary video, make a point of subscribing. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up if you're already a subscriber. And if you want to follow my personal journey as I'm looking and buying potential multi-baggers, go to unrivaledinvesting.com, click on journey. Okay, so let's go back to the question at hand, which is, should you consider buying this collapse? The few percentage. Or is it like, hey, should you be selling everything? Like, what time is it? Time to buy, time to sell? What should I be doing? So I have a couple of thoughts on the matter. First is, I mentioned a few days ago, like, how far could the market crash? I did a video on that. And the short answer was that a lot depends on the leadership. And I cited the example of Andrew Mellon during the Great Depression. And you can watch that video if you want the context there. But, I can give another example on why leadership is so critical for thinking about how things play out. How leadership is critical to how bad things can get. In 2007, the existing leadership, the Fed chair, said the subprime crisis was contained. And so that was clearly wrong. And that helps explain why you had this problem. It wasn't addressed by the leadership. It wasn't solved. And it continued to get worse until the great financial crisis continued to spiral. You continued to have dominoes fall of major, bigger and bigger companies that were more and more critical to the financial system at risk, until finally the government's like, oh snap, this is a problem. We need to fix this. It went from, minor problem, like contained, to this is a snafu. This needs to get solved right now. And we will do nothing. There's nothing holding us back from stopping it. We will do everything to stop it. So recognize what leadership does. Recognize what's the narrative, what's the problem that's being addressed. And understanding the narrative in any given period, I think is critical. And honestly, that's a whole separate conversation, a whole separate video. And I did an exclusive post about that. What's the narrative now? Exclusively for Journey subs. But that's a whole separate conversation. So what I would say is focusing on the leadership now, though. What do you see from the leadership? Well, today the stock market was largely flat at first. And then Jerome Powell, Fed chief, Fed chair, he gets on, and it wasn't even an official meeting with the Fed, Federal Reserve. He's doing a conference call, and folks are effectively saying, hey, are you planning on doing anything else? Are you potentially going to step in and make sure things go smoothly? And he's like, things are fine. I don't see any reason to step up. Now, if things start going really crazy, yeah, I'll consider stepping up. Hey, I know what happened to my predecessors. We're like, hey, financial crisis was not, the subprime was not contained. You know what? I'll step in. So like, yeah, so he puts the caveat. Yeah, if things start going crazy, I'll step in. So the way I look at this is that's a huge clue, because right after he was like, things are fine. What did the market do? Did the market say, oh yeah, things are fine? Yeah, the Federal Reserve is accommodative, things are fine. Or did the market go like, oh, yeah, not fine? And that's exactly what happened. In the next several hours, the market proceeded to collapse 2 to 3%. So that's a strong signal that there's a problem with the ongoing narrative that people need to understand. So this gets back to the question of, should you buy or should you sell? What should you do? Now, my thoughts on the matter is that no one knows the exact timing of bottoms, of tops. No one can exactly time the peaks or troughs. You can know where you are on this journey, and that's something I also have called out exclusively. Like, hey, these are the data signs. Like, if you're going on a hike to a waterfall, you can, as you're getting closer to the waterfall, you hear water running stronger. Maybe you can start feeling it in the air, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting closer. So you can know where the peak is, where the trough is. You can sort of know on your own journey. If you go for a hike, you go somewhere, you're getting closer to the destination or where you are. But honestly, this market, reminds me a bit of the saying from, I think it's the British Royal Air Force, where they say, there are old pilots and there are bold pilots, but there are no old and bold pilots. So I'm personally looking to live, a long and financially lucrative life journey. So I think my answer to that question of like, should you buy now, is fundamentally, or should you blow out, is to understand, thinking about that saying from the British Royal Air Force, bold, old, but no bold and old pilots. So I think I want to live this long life. I'm not looking to be, putting my neck out there, especially on what might be questionable valuations. So, fundamentally, understand what you own. What's the risk reward? And do you want to be that old pilot or do you want to be that bold one? So I'd say stay cautious, stay vigilant, stay focused on what you are doing. I'm personally, legging in slowly into the things that I find to have the best risk reward. And way I look at everything from a risk reward perspective is I'm always looking at the company, I'm sizing up their value proposition, but then I want to understand their valuation. Do I think the valuation is compelling? Because on the upside, I want to see several 100%. Hey, who doesn't? But on the downside, I also want to see up at least, let's say 20, 30, 50%. That's like the dream scenario. It's like I put this super conservative scenario, this low side, and I'm still potentially making money. And the truth is, most stocks right now, I can't do that. Most stocks, even the ones I'm buying right now, most of them, it's like, yeah, I still over 5 years, because I'm trying to have a long-term fundamental analysis over a 5-year period. In my downside case, it maybe breaks even, or maybe it loses 20%. So it's worthwhile to understand where you are in terms of how you are underwriting those stocks. So I say understand what you own, but understand that risk reward. And so that's part of the reason why I'm slowly legging into individual positions, finding companies that I like a lot. Slowly, let's see how they execute. Let's see them prove themselves. With a lot of SPACs, yeah, you put together a flashy presentation, but you know what? You haven't really proved yourself yet. You haven't proven yourself as a public company, and that's why you're seeing a lot of volatility. Well, I want to see some execution. So that's something for you to think about. Do you want to be that old pilot? Do you want to be that bold pilot? how do you want to fare on your own personal investment journey? And if you're interested in following my personal investment journey, you go to unraveledinvesting.com, click on journey, and there I break down what I am buying, what do I think of the current investment narrative. I also, each month I call it at least one potential multi-bagger, as well as an educational series to help improve your own education in terms of financial markets. And at the end of the day, I hope this video, in terms of thinking, I just wanted to share some thoughts with you, because a lot of people, I can tell, are jittery and nervous about the market, seeing it drop a few percent today. A lot of people are in some pain. So I want to, share some thoughts, hopefully a steady hand to, maybe give you some direction in terms of how you want to think about your own journey, some pointers for you to think about your own journey. And I hope this has been helpful for you. If this is your first time watching, make a point of subscribing. If you're already a subscriber, I do appreciate that thumbs up. Thanks so much.